A very warm good morning. Hope I find all of you in the best of your health and you all are doing safe. I'm Dr. Parisa, consultant pediatric dentist with Apollo Dental and Apollo Hospitals, Chennai. It's been a privilege and honor for me to be associated with Apollo Group of Hospitals for the past almost 9 years. And I would like to thank the entire team and management of Apollo, all my patients and their parents who have had faith in me and supported me to be here today. Certainly we all are living in uncertain times with the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, and it's during times like this that our faith can be challenged. And definitely the past 1 year has not been as we have been expecting it. It's been marked with reflection and change, but we all have found new ways to stay connected, to love more unconditionally, and to enjoy what we already have. And in this, spending time with our little precious ones has been no exception. So today I am here to emphasize on importance of pediatric dentistry for children and why does your child need to meet a pediatric dentist. So we all can talk about how we are celebrating parenting and everything we do for our kids, but amid the infinite things that we take care of, oral health often gets missed. Children's dentistry is not only about treating the disease, but also preventing one and looking at holistic health. So today I am here to demystify and debunk certain myths around pediatric dentistry and child's oral health care. So always, as we all know, dentistry has been concerned with maybe aesthetics and how your teeth appear, how nice they appear. But there is more to that. It's not only how your teeth appear, but it's also how healthy they are. It is like any other part of your body where its function is more important than its aesthetic. And all of us know that your oral cavity is mirror to your body. So what I often see as a pediatric dentist is that parents report when the child is in so much of distress and pain, that's when they report to a pediatric dentist. And they are so distressed, the child is so distressed, and I need to handle an emergency more than just seeing a child. So we all are, culturally, we have been brought up with this mindset that baby tooth is just a temporary tooth. It doesn't matter, as it's going to shed, it's going to fall, it's going to be there just for a few years in the child's mouth, and we don't need to actually take the child to a dentist until and unless there is a problem. And in case if there is also any problem, there is a myth that okay, it's just the appearance of the child. You know, our children look always cute to us, and even children, they appear cute even they don't have 1 or 2 teeth here and there missing in their mouth. But it's not that way. The milk tooth is very important in oral cavity when it comes not only to appearance of the child, but as all of us know, children are in a dynamic stage of growth. They are continuously growing, the child is developing, and it's very important to have the baby tooth in mouth. For childs, basically, the first and most important thing is for the child to chew and eat. Without a tooth, all of us know it's not possible without teeth for us to functionally chew and eat everything properly. Next thing is that children are in the developing stages of their speech. So if a child is affected by early childhood caries at a very young age and they are going to lose their front teeth, the child's speech is going to get affected. And the teeth in place is going to support the child's craniofacial growth. That is basically how the child's face and jaws are going to develop in future and it's going to grow. So if there is going to be no teeth, there is going to be muscular imbalance in the face. The jaws are not going to grow appropriately. The child's face, the nose, and basically the craniofacial structure is not going to be full-fledged grown to the extent that it has to be. And this is going to in future lead to crowded teeth, teeth that do not have space to grow, and face that is not very pleasing and appealing. The child might have a very round chin, a very blunt nose. The cheekbones may not appear as developed as it has to be, and functionally the child might grow into an adult who has multiple problems like chronic headaches, migraines, joint pains, and postural difficulties. So with this, I would like to look into our comment sessions, and I would get back on demystifying more myths around pediatric dentistry. So we have few questions that are poured in. I would like to start answering them. So to start with, we have a question that what are the home dental care recommendations in children with special healthcare needs. So when it comes to children with special healthcare needs, we already know that parents are burdened with lots of problems from the medical side that the child is going through. The child has certain physical or mental disabilities which needs to be handled by its own, which I completely understand. It's very stressful on the parent side. The child is already loaded with multiple medications, and the least that a parent can think is maybe the child's oral cavity. And the child is definitely not going to cooperate well for maintaining a good oral hygiene or even brushing, which is going to add to the burden of the disease. And then it's in the last condition that when the child is into so much of distress, a swelling, that they bring the child, that the child is not able to eat, because many of these children will not be able to communicate properly when they have pain, where do they have pain. So what I would suggest is, it's never too early to meet a pediatric dentist. This applies for normal children or special children. So if you meet the pediatric dentist early in life, and you choose a right and appropriate pediatric dentist who will give a specified treatment plan for your child, then you can actually prevent occurrence and burden of disease in your child. Dentistry has never been expensive. Treatment is never expensive. It's our ignorance that leads to the expense that is cost. So please take your child as early as the first tooth erupts, pops up into the oral cavity, or not later than the first birthday, irrespective of what condition your child is having, whether the child is medically compromised, whether the child is under special care, any behavioral disorder. Please do meet your pediatric dentist. They would give a specific routine for each child. It's not a general prescription that I have that I can suggest here. For children with behavioral disorders, we give a specific set of dental care, like they need to have certain behavioral modification when it comes to their oral hygiene measures. With children who have physical disabilities like cerebral palsy, we do give certain modification with their toothbrushes, because these children cannot hold by themselves because of their problem with their dexterity. So we give certain modifications like attaching some rubber balls to the brush where it gives them a better hold. We suggest powered toothbrush to the parents, where it will be easier to access the deeper parts of the oral cavity. So it is going to be specific for every child. For medically compromised children, children having seizures, fits, they are going to be on medications which are lifetime medications, which are going to affect their gums and gingiva. So these children need special kind of attention, where we put them early on mouth rinses, and we would educate the parents on how to bring down the severity of the disease. So as we all know, every parent wants the best thing for their child, especially mothers. They are loaded by choosing the best diaper, the best shoe, the age appropriate dress, the age appropriate toy. So please do choose an age appropriate dentist also. Take your child as early as possible to the pediatric dentist and get the guidance step by step, stage by stage, for every stage that the child grows. Like how the child has a pediatrician, they need to have a pediatric dentist as early as they are born. So going to the next question. Will my child's eyesight get affected if my child's tooth is removed? Yes, this is a very common question I come across when I tell a parent that this tooth can unfortunately not be saved and we need to get this tooth removed. So immediately the parent is worried and concerned that is it going to affect my child's brain, my child's eyesight, his or her hearing ability? So it's a big no. This is again another myth that it's not going to cause any kind of problem to the child's eyesight, brain, spine or any hearing abilities. Every tooth in your or a child's mouth or oral cavity has a specific nerve supply to its own, and it's not going to cause any complication if it's going to be treated in a right way. The next question is, can herbal toothpaste be used for children? Yes, so in these times when we are, loaded with so much of articles, so much of knowledge that chemicals are bad, it's harmful for children, especially for when it comes to our kids, we go handpicked, we go reading every label behind every food item we choose, whether it's organic, whether it's sulfur free, whether it's paraben free, this, that, even the shampoo we choose for our little ones. So yes, it's concerning that parents feel that these pastes are overloaded with chemicals and they would prefer to go for herbal toothpaste or toothpaste specifically that are online available, which mentions they are fluoride free. Again, that's a big mistake. It's a no. Please, while selecting your toothpaste for the child, it has to be age appropriate, and please look at the tag at the bottom of the paste where it's written it contains fluoride. So minimum of 450 to 500 ppm of fluoridated paste is advised for your child to start with, and even abroad they use up to 1000 ppm is recommended, and it's not going to be harmful. That amount of fluoride is not going to cause any systemic harm to your child even if it's swallowed. The only thing is that we think the more we load our brush with the paste, it's going to be more effective and clean more effectively. No. For initially to start with, you have to start with finger brushes. For infants who have just one or more than 2 teeth, you have the silicone finger brushes which needs to be dipped in water and used. After 1 year, you can use a soft small headed toothbrush which is dipped in water, and it can be used with 1 day. You can use a fluoridated toothpaste once in a day. You have to brush twice. Once in a day you can use the toothpaste. You have to just use a smear size, that is a rice grain size of toothpaste onto the brush. That amount is in no way going to cause any systemic fluorosis to your child. So don't worry. Fluoride is like calcium supplement. Like how you give vitamin drops when the pediatrician advises, you give iron drops, multivitamins. This is very essential for your child's tooth and its well-being. It's going to make your child's tooth resistant to acid attack. So please do not get scared of fluoridated toothpaste. For children, herbal toothpaste are not recommended. The next question is, what should be done in case of injury to the lips in a small child? Yes, we have trauma in children is something that we come across very often. Children, once they start crawling, once they start walking, they are usually very active, they are inquisitive, they go trying around things, and as much as possible we parents do proof all the corners, we save all sharp items, we keep it away, but then still children tend to have falls in the play areas, in their preschools. So I would advise that please, as I mentioned, as early as possible when you meet your pediatric dentist, they would educate you on how to learn first aid on handling a dental emergency for each stage in your child. Okay, so dental trauma is stage wise. In 1 to 3-year-old, when the child starts walking and crawling, the type of fall and the type of injury varies. Once your child goes the preschooler or school going age, once they start riding their tricycle, bicycle, and they start running around, going around and playing in swings, the type of injury is different. Once the child grows, they are into their teenager, then they get involved in sports, contact sports, skating, then the type of injury is going to be different. So we are going to educate the parent each stage how to handle and how to prevent injuries. We have like sport guards, mouth guards, which like how you gear your child by helmets, knee pads. The same way we have mouth guards, which we would suggest for older children. And for younger children, we would definitely teach you like how every parent now tries to educate themselves on first aid emergencies, like how to handle a small burn, a small bruise. That way we will teach you how to handle a traumatic dental injury in a child as soon as it happens before you meet the pediatric dentist, where you can help the pediatric dentist in getting a better prognosis and outcome in their treatment. So that's again my advice. Importance of meeting a pediatric dentist early is to equip yourself on how to manage these kind of injuries. So when especially coming to the question that it has been asked, so injuries to the lip is very common when the child falls, and they will have a hit from their lower lip, which will cause an impact onto the upper lip. So you will usually see a site that is bleeding too much. Try to just clean the area with drinking water and just inspect the child's lip that there is no foreign body impacted inside. Make sure that there is no tooth that is lost and gone and impacted into the upper lip by the force that the child's mouth has been closed. And if it is too big and there is a profuse bleeding, please try to apply an ice pack, a pressure gauze, and take the child immediately to a pediatric dentist or at least the emergency ward of a children's hospital, where they would be having a pediatric dentist on board, where if required they'll debride a wound and give a suture, and if not they will give a first aid emergency and put the child on medications and keep the child under follow-up. Hope I have answered the question in short. Because of time restraint, I wouldn't be able to elaborate on each point. So the next question is, what is conscious sedation in children? Okay, this is a very beautiful question. There is a lot of controversies when it comes to conscious sedation, general anesthesia, and the parents are really freaked out when I use that word. So conscious sedation and general anesthesia are options that we use in very young children, children with special healthcare needs, and medically compromised children who we cannot treat them chairside. Okay, so we are going for a safe option. Actually, those sedation and general anesthesia is going to be more safer than treating your child on chairside. So don't be scared. It's nothing but we give certain medications that would put your child to sleep, which are completely safe. It is prescribed by an anesthetist. We would be having an anesthetist by the child's side continuously during the procedure, and we would be performing the entire procedure with under sedation and or general anesthesia. It is not going to have permanent harmful effects on the brain. It's not going to have any harmful effects and cause behavioral disorders, like many parents are concerned that if I'm going to give general anesthesia so early in life, it's going to lead to ADHD in children. There are no proved till now conclusive articles or studies published that yes, it causes. It again depends on the right choice of drug for each child, the minimal dose to be used, the right dose to be used, and the duration. So sedation and general anesthesia are completely safe to be used in young children, and it is the right choice for the child to prevent. You don't need to get scared, leave the child with so much of infection and disease in their mouth just because you are scared of that general anesthesia. If you bring the child at age of 2.5 years to me with a full cavitated mouth, and again after 6 months you come up to me with the child complaining of pain and swelling, still I would give you the same option. So don't get scared. Please go ahead with treating your child under general anesthesia. And again, I like to break a big important concern here. We do not perform conscious sedation procedures like for adults, which they do on chair side. We do not perform giving medicine through IV line on chair side in the clinic without supervision of an anesthetist for children. So for children, it is completely general anesthesia or nitrous oxide inhalation sedation. So nitrous oxide inhalation sedation would be done chair side, and it does not require an anesthetist. It is done for children who are little fearful, anxious, of an older age like 4 to 5 years, where they can follow the instructions but they are little fearful. So it's nothing but they put on the hood onto the nose and we give them this laughing gas, all of you would have heard. So it's nitrous oxide gas that goes on, and it just calms down the child, and it absolutely has no side effects. It doesn't even enter your system. It just gets into your lungs and you breathe it out as such as it is. So it's completely safe. So you have these two options, and this your pediatric dentist will decide whether the child is a right candidate for nitrous oxide sedation or general anesthesia. In between, we do not perform conscious sedation on chair side in the clinic without presence of an anesthetist for children. The next question is, my grandchild is 19 months old and has only 6 teeth present. What is that I need to do? Please relax, enjoy your time with your grandchild, and every child is unique to itself, and there is no ready-made recipe that the textbook says that at this age this should happen, at this age the child should walk, at this age the child should talk, and we can judge the child based on that. Okay, so a child has to be treated with a multidisciplinary approach. It's not only the pediatrician that can take care of the child, only the pediatric dentist that can take care of the child, only the physiotherapist who can guide your child. No, it's a multidisciplinary approach. If the child is normal otherwise medically, the pediatrician has no concern about child's general health, and the child is doing other things normally, you don't need to be really concerned. Even now it is considered if the child's first tooth erupts up to 13 to 18 months of age, also it's normal. If the child is not having any calcium deficiency, vitamin deficiency, any underlying associated systemic disease, any congenital heart problems, any cleft lip in palate, then please don't worry and just let the child be. It's completely normal. Meet a pediatric dentist. They will be able to guide you properly and keep the child under regular supervisions. Next question is, how to brush my toddler's tooth who refuses to even keep the toothbrush in mouth? That's a beautiful question, very concerning to mothers who come early. They are already loaded with so much of stress of taking care of the child, cooking, feeding the child is not feeding properly, not eating, and on top of that I ask them to brush twice, that too in night. The mother is tired, the child is tired, and at that time I tell them, please go for the war. I know how difficult it is. But just like how the way you spend time to feed your child, going around the room, trying different ways, taking them to terrace, taking them to the park, showing them the moon, you make all attempts to make your child eat few spoons. Please try and see what is comfortable for your child. Every child is different. See what is that excites your child. Try to, there is nothing better than modeling for a child. Try to brush your own teeth in front of them regularly. You cannot instruct a child and you don't do it. Children do not listen, they are good observers. So try to do it in front of your children. Take them in front of the mirror. We have certain musical toothbrushes that have come up with timers which would excite the child, to listen to it while they brush. We have cartoon themed power toothbrushes, which makes it much more easier. We have flavored and colored, toothpastes that have come up. We have toothbrushing apps where the child can play at the same time that they are brushing their teeth. So please try all that and see what works for your child. And again, your pediatric, here it's the importance of pediatric dentists. They would educate you by assessing your child what would work the best for your child. So next question is, my elder child did not have any cavities. Where did I go wrong with my younger one? So demystifying certain myths about cavities. See, cavity is not a problem that I can tell this has caused cavities. Cavities are like any other part, any other disease. That doesn't mean that if one of your child had a good, born with so much of hair, your other next child is going to be born with hair. Or if one of your child is fair, your other child is going to be fair. No, cavities are also like that. Cavity is totally a multifactorial disease that starts with minute things from the time of birth. Our oral cavity is all sterile till we are in the womb, and it starts getting contaminated once the child through a normal delivery passes the vaginal canal. That's the first contact point that the child's oral bacteria start getting inculcated. Okay, so from that point, then next is how we introduce the child to what kind of foods, how early we introduce a child to sugar, how early we are going to, we have this habit, especially the mothers, we are so overprotective that we try to, whenever we are going to feed a child, what we do is usually to check the temperature, we blow into the spoon, we blow into the food, and we transmit bacteria from our mouth to that food, which our bacteria go and get stuck and inculcated as a new bacteria into the child's mouth. So oral cavity is the only part of your body that has the highest amount of variety of bacteria, okay, and it varies in each person. There are no two people with similar kind of oral bacteria in their mouth, okay. So there are multiple, the feeding patterns, all this which is going to make the child prone to or developing a risk to caries or not. There are other factors. What I told you was one part called diet. We have other factors like host, the tooth. Every person's tooth makeup is also different. Like how your skin is different, your bone is different, your blood is different, your blood group is different. Each child's tooth makeup is also different. Okay. So how much your child's tooth is mineralized, how much of calcium it's having, and how good and strong it is genetically, how when it was forming. So many children, when you see initially when their tooth erupts, pops into their mouth, after just few months or weeks, they'll have this small white spots present onto their teeth. Okay, so these are going to be prone areas to acid attack. They are weak areas to acid attack. Okay, so this child is not going to, this tooth is not going to act similar even to the adjacent tooth which doesn't have this weak point in that same child's mouth. So you cannot compare two children stating that this child didn't have, why does this child have? I've fed the same thing, I've done the same thing. So composition of your saliva in your mouth in each person varies. The amount of flow of saliva varies. So a child who has more saliva, the cleaning effect on the mouth is going to be more than a child who has lesser saliva, a more sticky kind of saliva. So it's multifactorial. I cannot cover things here. So please take your child to the pediatric dentist, get everything assessed, and they will tell you how you need to take care of this particular child's oral cavity. So the next question is, what is the reason for irregular teeth growth for children? Okay, so irregular growth of teeth, when you see, it's again a multifactorial thing. Okay, so basically your teeth need to accommodate in your jaw. It's like how I tell you, you have a bundle of clothes and you have to choose your closet for that. Okay, so if you're going to choose a small closet and you're going to stuff your clothes into that, it's going to look messy, it's going to look nasty and irregular, it's going to look untidy. So the problem is not with your clothes, but it's with your closet size, okay? So the same way, irregular teeth doesn't come with problem with the teeth as such, but it's with problem is with your jaw, with growth of your jaw. So if your jaw has not grown sufficiently, it's not going to be able to accommodate that many teeth in your mouth. So many parents, they come up and say that my child had this milk teeth which was so arranged and beautiful, and when he or she has got a permanent tooth, it's looking so nasty. So the reason is, actually your milk teeth have to be, it shouldn't look as beautiful as you're expecting it. It should have good sufficient amount of gaps in between. Okay, that is a normal arrangement of milk baby teeth. So if your baby teeth itself is arranged without space, definitely your permanent teeth is going to come up crowded, because everyone's permanent teeth is much larger in size compared to their baby tooth. Okay, and there are multiple factors right from birth, like your feeding habit. Okay, irrespective of, I'm not telling that bottle feeding is going to lead, no, even wrong positions of breastfeeding is going to lead to problems. It is going to lead to wrong swallowing patterns. So right from infancy, wrong swallowing patterns, wrong feeding patterns, which lead to wrong breathing patterns, positioning of the child's tongue, certain problems like tongue tie which restrict the child's movement of tongue. All this is going to cause muscular imbalances in your face, which is going to affect your jaw growth. And if the child's jaw is not going to grow properly, it's going to lead to crowded teeth. So this is one of the main reasons now that we advise to start as early as possible. Don't wait till your child is 12-13 years old, then go and put clips and get them corrected. No, correct the underlying cause. See what is stopping your child's jaw growing. Correct that. Once the jaws grow, the teeth are going to be in place. Okay, so there's no problem with teeth. Until and unless the underlying problem is existing, even at later stages, if you're going to place braces, after you remove the braces, the problem is again going to shoot back. There will be relapse of your treatment there. So if you're going to correct the tongue positioning as early as possible, it's going to, your swallow, the certain habits, all that is going to get corrected, then the teeth are going to be in position and your child would never even require braces at later stages. So next question is, how certain oral habits like thumb sucking, nail biting, teeth grinding will affect child's oral hygiene, and will it also affect on mental health? Yes, there are certain habits, okay, mainly like I told you, thumb sucking, nail biting, all these have underlying causes. Okay, so coming to thumb sucking, before it was considered that maybe the child is in distress. So up to certain age like infancy, up to 1 year of age, exploring the oral cavity with with hand or your fingers, it's normal. The child might explore his or her oral cavity by placing multiple fingers. That is normal. That is psychologically the child is going through his or her development of oral stage. But when it comes to sucking, a particular pattern, a habit that's getting repeated and the child gets addicted to it, it's a big no-no irrespective of the age. Okay, so pediatricians usually, no offense made, they tell that it's normal, leave the child, they'll outgrow it. No, they will not. They will grow more into it, and it will become very, very difficult to break a habit once the child is older. So please, if you see a particular pattern of habit in child, please take them to the pediatric dentist. Definitely there is an underlying cause. Stress could be a cause. That also will be analyzed by your pediatric dentist. They will have questionnaires where they will assess whether the child is mouth breathing at the night, whether the child's sleeping pattern, child's feeding pattern, whether the child is a slow eater, whether the child is a too fast eater, whether the child has any tongue ties, difficulties in sucking and swallowing. Even infants, if you have an infant for whom you are struggling to breastfeed, breastfeeding is a painful process for you and your child is not able to suck, your infant is not making sounds while sucking, grasping too much of air inside, all that is not normal. There is no problem with the mother. Please don't have this self guilt and shame yourself, stating that I don't have sufficient milk, it's problem with me. No, it's not problem with you, it's problem with the child. The child is suffering, the infant is suffering with some underlying disorder in their mouth, like tongue tie, where they are not able to create that seal in the mouth. Please feel free to go meet a pediatric dentist. They will refer you. If needed, a tongue tie release will be done. If not, they will wait. They will refer you to a lactation consultant. They will refer you to a craniosacral therapist who will do light body works to release the child's tension, because many children, many infants, newborns undergo certain tightening in their body, especially when they come through C-section. Okay. So, or if that is worked and the muscles and the fascia all are relaxed, then the child's tongue movement might improve. And please, if your pediatric dentist says that there is a problem with the child's tongue, but we are not going to do a tongue tie release now, that doesn't mean that your child is free and you never need to meet a dentist again. This child needs to be under review continuously, because at certain point they might need this tongue tie to be released. I would like to emphasize on a very quick important part now, that underneath your tongue you can see a very small layer of white, thin kind of tissue, which is called fascia. Okay, you can see it even on the chicken. So this fascia is connected from under your tongue. It goes down through your neck. It crosses your neck, shoulder, goes down, crosses your chest, abdomen, pelvic bone, and goes up to your feet. Okay, so if there is any tightness in the origin of it itself, that is going to lead to multiple problems like postural problems, wrong breathing, headaches, shoulder pain, neck pains, and multiple problems as the child is going to grow. Okay, so you need to keep meeting the pediatric dentist. He or she will evaluate how this tongue is progressing and whether at any given point of time it needs kind of exercise, it needs physiotherapy, does it need myofunctional assistance like facial orthopedics, and guide you, or whether it needs a release. No, this is not working and now we need to release the tongue. Okay, so it is very important. If your tongue is not going to sit in the roof of your mouth, the child is not going to breathe properly, and if the child is not breathing properly, that's by itself is a whole disease. Okay, it's going to lead to sleep breathing disorders. It's going to lead to, if your child is not going to breathe, I think many of you during this COVID time would have come across an article where they told people who breathe through their mouth do not produce this nitric acid in their body, which is necessary to disinfect the air that we breathe, and which helps in expanding our alveolus and lung when we take in air. Okay, so a child who mouth breathes does a shallow chest breathing. They do not do a deep abdominal breathing. Okay, so the amount of oxygen that they take in is very less, and the amount of vitamin D that is going to be processed in the body, the nitric oxide that's going to be produced, it's not going to be there. So during this time you can know how much it's important that a child breathes through their nose. Okay, and if you have this mouth breathing habit, you're going to carry it throughout your life. It's not something that it will get auto corrected. Okay, swallowing is an unconscious act. If you're going to be swallowing in a wrong way for your life, you're going to do that permanently. You cannot correct it by yourself. You cannot realize it by yourself that you are swallowing wrong. Okay, so you need to meet a pediatric dentist early. Going to quickly to the next question. How safe is it to get the child to the dental clinic in the present time? What is the care I need to take? So I tell all the parents, at the current time we are advising, yes, emergency treatment to be done. We don't expect your child to walk in for scaling or something that's not of concern, but definitely it is safe. I tell every parent, in a normal day, what is the risk you take of taking your child on the road? Okay, do we all close our eyes in normal days and cross the road? Do we go on bikes without helmets or without protection? Don't we look right and left while we cross the road? This is also the same way. Okay, what is the incidence of you catching an infection while you go to a supermarket is going to be much higher than coming and meeting your dentist, because at least here we are taking the highest of precautions to ensure your safety and our safety too. So we are cleaning the place, and we are giving the best that we can to keep your little ones safe. So if there is an emergency, please don't feel scared to bring your child. And if you see a cavity in your child's tooth, don't sit and tell, now it's lockdown, I'll go after 3 months. And then you come up with a big swelling and the mother crying. This is what I was seeing for the past 1 year very often, mothers coming and crying to me, feeling guilty that I was scared of the pandemic and now my child is with a swelling, in fever, distress, my child has not been eating, and I should have got him or her earlier. So please don't feel scared. If there is something of concern and the child needs treatment, please bring your child. And please, all of you have now sufficient time, at least I think. Please go through this, enhancing your knowledge by seeing certain programs, educational videos on your child's dental care. Next question is, can children below 13 years undergo scaling treatment to remove tartar? See, when it comes to tartar, plaque, calculus and stains, again they have their own underlying causes, okay? There is absolutely no restriction on any kind of treatment for children, okay? We do treatment like on the medical side. We do treatment when it's needed. When the child is having a problem, you don't go to a doctor and get an unnecessary surgery, right? Even if it's for a child, you perform a surgery because it's required. I'm not going to do an unnecessary treatment. I'm not going to do a filling if your child is not going to have cavities, okay? So if I'm suggesting a particular treatment for a child, that is because the child requires it, the child needs it, and there is no question in that my child is too small whether he can take it. They perform cardiac heart surgeries on newborn infants who have hole in their hearts, right? So it's because the child requires it. So if your child has a tooth which has a swelling, it's decayed, then it is like your child needs to undergo a root canal treatment to save that tooth, to come out of trouble. So it's nothing like they shouldn't go through that particular treatment. The child cannot take it. No, we are going to do pain-free dentistry. Pediatric dentistry is absolutely not a statement of torturing your child. It is completely to do the child's dental treatment. We are trained for more than 3 years. And after that it continues to keep your child, treat your child in a very safe hand, okay? So if coming back to the scaling is not a no for anyone's teeth. It's not going to erode the enamel, and if the child is having too much of stain, plaque or calculus, it indicates that either the child's oral hygiene is not good, or either the child is having any other underlying systemic problem that is leading to this thing to happen again and again. Either the child has mouth breathing habit that is leading to these black stains repeatedly again and again. So your pediatric dentist will be able to tell you what is the reason, and then you can go for the scaling as and when required. So the next question is it wrong if the tooth is facing the wrong side? Okay, so I think this is again about the positioning of the tooth, okay? Yes, teeth have particular alignment. They need to be in that particular alignment, and if the tooth is rotated, it is coming from the upper side or something, it means that there is some problem with the tooth not having space to come. So how much ever space it's having, it is coming from there. If I'm not wrong, and I've got the question right, I think the parent means that usually before the milk tooth fall, the permanent tooth start coming from behind. Okay, so we call it as double row teeth. So this is nothing but the child is having, this indicates the child is having lack of space. So each tooth, your permanent tooth, is located beneath your primary tooth, okay, your milk tooth, your baby tooth. So if there is no sufficient space for it to come in that upright direction, what happens? It moves backward where there is space, okay. So once it moves backward, it doesn't apply any kind of pressure on the root of your baby tooth for it to shake and fall. So eventually what happens, the child baby will have 2 rows of teeth and the milk tooth is not going to fall on its own. Please don't wait for it to fall on its own, because there is no force on it to become loose. Okay. So you need to meet a pediatric dentist and get the tooth removed as early as possible. So with the pressure of tongue, the permanent tooth that's coming behind almost falls into place. And more important than that, don't leave that at that place. If your child is having lack of space, that indicates that there is some underlying problem going on. Your child's jaw is not growing properly, and catch that there. Okay, don't wait for the child to grow with these narrow jaws and then later on try to fix them with braces. So I think this ends our questions here. So I would like to just very quickly, 2 minutes, inform you or maybe enhance you on things that you need to look into. Why do you need to meet a pediatric dentist? What all problems can you see from infancy? As I mentioned, one thing was your tongue tie in infants. Breastfeeding problems in infants are of cause of concern for you to meet a pediatric dentist. Next thing is about teething issues. Okay, a child might undergo a various kind of discomfort and symptoms while a milk tooth is popping in their mouth, from minor things like rashes, watery eyes and nose, irritation, fever, diarrhea, constipation. All this can happen. Please meet your pediatric dentist, get educated on how to handle this situation. Next thing would be about fact of sugar. Please don't introduce your little ones to sugar just because you like sugar, just because you feel if sugar is added to your juice it would taste better. So my child would drink this juice better if I added a pinch of sugar to it. Okay, no pinch of sugar, like there is no pinch of salt, no pinch of sugar, strictly till the child is 3 years. Okay, no sugar. Next thing is fact about bleeding from the gums. Bleeding from gums is not normal in children like how in adults. When we have few bleeding gums, we consider it normal. It is not. Bleeding from gums in children is of serious concern for you to look in. It might indicate that the child is having certain underlying systemic problem or any kind of bleeding disorders. Please catch it early. Next thing I would like to emphasize is on oral habits. Please get early advice from your pediatrician. Don't consider any habit as normal. And next thing was your mouth breathing and sleep breathing disorder. If your child, your baby is snoring, snoring is not normal in infants as it is mentioned. Okay, you see many children who sleep so cutely like this with their mouth open. They actually look very cute, you know, but that is not normal. They have some underlying breathing disorder that leads to snoring. So get that checked with your pediatric dentist. Next thing that I debunked already about fluorides, it's been done. Please use a fluoridated toothpaste. We have fluoride paints that can be applied very early on teeth that I mentioned to you with that white spots which are susceptible, which could make the baby tooth stronger and prevent it from getting decayed. So please choose the right brush and right paste. There is nothing like best brush and best paste. No. Next thing I want you to know is cavities are not self-healing in children. Don't keep stuffing clove paste and all into it and think it's going to get closed. It's only going to progress and it's not going to get closed. Cavities, we have this mindset that cavities are eventually inevitable in children because they keep eating sweets, sugary items, chocolates. No, it can be prevented. Okay, it's not that every child they have the right to have cavities. Okay, no, every child has the right to be cavity free. So please take care of that. Please make a note that children cannot brush on their own till they are minimum age of 6 years. A child can brush on her or his own only when he has learned to tie his shoelace. Okay, so till then they need supervised brushing or brushing by the parent. Next thing is dental x-rays, okay, are completely safe. You give your children, you give your toddlers mobile phones to play. They are exposed to so much of radiation from the TV, from mobiles, from gadgets, from our even smart watches, laptops. So dental x-rays are in nowhere near to even the amount of radiation that our gadgets give. Okay, so take your child early to the pediatric dentist. If required, they will take certain x-rays to check if the child is prone to any further problem, further disease, if any missing tooth is there, if any wrong positioning of tooth is there. If you see your child's tooth is not erupted beyond a certain age, okay, like your permanent front tooth, what happens is usually there might be one extra tooth that gets stuck. We call it as a mesiodens. It's like a cone, conical in shape, that grows in between your two upper front teeth, which prevents the permanent tooth from coming. So at that time, x-rays might be required and needed. It's essential. So don't get scared of x-rays. Please go ahead if it is indicated by your pediatric dentist. Again, bad breath in children, it's of concern. Okay, if you feel there is bad breath coming out of your child's mouth, please don't ignore it. It might indicate that your child's oral hygiene is poor. The child is having some kind of infection in his mouth. Either your child is having some respiratory infections from his adenoids, tonsils, infected sinus. Please get it checked with the pediatric dentist. The same applies even to stains. And next thing is, get yourself equipped on managing traumatic injuries in children. It is very common. I get so many calls in the night, late night. My twins were playing with each other. One banged the other one on the door, and now I don't know what to do. I have this tooth in my hand. They give me a WhatsApp call with the tooth. Okay. So please meet the pediatric dentist early. Get yourself educated. Know how to preserve that tooth. You have to preserve, if you have a knocked out tooth, preserve it in the milk. And you can take it to your pediatric dentist and get it maybe reimplanted again, especially if it's your permanent tooth. And please get a specific diet chart from your pediatric dentist. Okay, they would ask you to fill in a diet diary and give based on what the child is eating, and then they will select from it. I'm not telling your children should never eat chocolates, never eat cakes. No, that cannot happen. You cannot, as a mother, keep telling no to everything, especially during this lockdowns. I know how difficult it's been with kids being at home and asking all the time for something to be snacked. Okay, so make sure your child goes with the right snack, which is good for their tooth to grow and glow. Okay, don't give them go foods which makes the tooth just dissolve and go, like chips, like sugary items, like aerated drinks. All that are a big no. Please go to your pediatric dentist. They will help you choose the child snack wisely, and the amount of sugar, the frequency of snacking, all this is going to matter. And the next most important thing that I would like to emphasize on and maybe end the session with is the concern with nutritional deficiencies. Okay, so now during this COVID especially, we see they have so many problems that have come up with people overloading themselves. There was even a theory come up that this mucormycosis is maybe because of people overloading themselves with these vitamin supplements without prescription, vitamin C's that they have been taking, the steam inhalation that they have been doing. So coming to tooth as such, if your child is having cavities, don't immediately think it's because your child is having nutritional deficiency, especially calcium deficiency. Okay, many parents think that my child doesn't drink milk, so that's why he's got these cavities. No, your tooth form, actually the teeth are formed, the buds form when the child is an embryo, when the child is still in your womb. Okay, when you're carrying the baby. So it starts from that stage. It has nothing to do with your baby drinking milk or calcium deficiency at later stages. So make sure that you don't, once your child has a cavity, instead of taking them to a pediatric dentist, you don't start pumping them on these calcium supplements, vitamin D supplements. These are going to cause an overload on the kidney and cause serious medical concerns and issues at later stage. Okay, so please get the TK2 treated, and until and unless the blood parameters, if indicated by the pediatric dentist or pediatrician, do a blood test. If it shows the blood calcium vitamin D, serum vitamin D is very low, then they would put the child on some supplements. And a child who is on such a severe deficiency would definitely show other systemic problems with their bones too. It's not only with the tooth. So don't please do self medication. If your child is having pain, any kind of swelling, please don't do self medications, because once you do self medication, it's going to just suppress the infection for some time, but it's going to make it more resistant the next time. So when next time it's going to come up like a super infection, it's going to be more severe and it might be even life threatening to your child. So don't do self medications. And with this, I think I've tried as much as possible. I've gone over my time. Pediatric dentistry is very vast. I can talk on each of these topics for 40 minutes each, but there is time constraint, and hope I've been able to enhance parents here, specifically educate you guys with the basics that you need to know. It's been like handbook I've tried to give you guys. So I hope you guys have been able to take some take home messages which would be useful. And please feel free to get back to us if there are any questions, you want any consultations with us. Please feel free to contact Apollo Dental, any branches. I would be available in many of the branches. My main branch is Apollo Annanagar. Please feel free to come in, walk in for a consultation, or if you even require, we are doing online consultations. We can have an online consultation if you feel that your child is not having any concern but you want certain information. Please feel free to get back to us. So with this, I would like to end today's session. I request you all to please stay tuned and please stay safe and keep your stress away. Frontline workers, we have all been working our best to keep you all safe. Let's all be connected, be kind, and please all of you stay safe and take care of yourself and your little ones. Have a good day.